There's no such thing as perfect requirements, right? And it's like the PM has to fill that space, and it's their judgment ends up jumping in for better or worse. Hopefully better.
Welcome to the Disgruntled PM Podcast, your weekly therapy session for the chaotic world of project management, transforming daily frustrations into real action. Welcome, everybody. I'm Trevor, the Disgruntled PM, joined today by my enthusiastic guest, Dennis Wong. Dennis, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hey, my name's Dennis Wong. I've been in IT for a long time, and I'm basically starting my own fractional consulting business. I've helped lots of teams get it together, Fortune 100, mid-market. I basically completely help fix teams, get them on purpose, get them on task, get the company moving the right direction as far as prioritization and ROI, make sure you get the right things done, fix the right things, and then I get laid off a couple times. Years in, when the teams are running and they run low on money and I cost too much. So I figured, what the heck? Why don't I do it for myself and help lots of companies at once?
You're very humble on your description there, because I know more about that than what the audience does. So let's get right into it, because I know, your intake form, you sent me lots of quotes to prompt you on.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stuck out to me the most was most enterprise PMOs exist to protect IT from delivering anything on time.
I mean, that's a big one, right? You have the big enterprise PMOs, and everyone hates the PMO at big companies because they come in without understanding the project or what you're trying to accomplish, really. And they're overworked. I'm not saying it's their fault necessarily. They're overworked. They come in, they bring a strong maybe PM coming in, and it's like, oh, we need to do this. What are all the deliverables? What are we doing? What's the schedule? When are we gonna do it? Without asking the question, like, what are we doing first? What's trying to happen here? Because unfortunately, most projects are half baked at best. And I guess that's a mean way to say it, but the projects are coming. The people want something, but they don't know what they want, or they hired a vendor and they want their software, but how's the software fully integrate and all the different consequences? And these are things you need to think through. And the PMO basically yes, they add rigor. They add a lot of rigor and scheduling, but in a general sense, they don't help deliver the project because they don't know what needs to happen first. They just jump right into the rigor and everything gets missed, even more so than normal. So in a general sense, that's a big company PMOs. And that's what I've seen happen. And that's why.
And I want to back up for a minute to kind of go over your background a little bit more, because I want to provide some context for where these strong opinions come from.
Yeah.
Now, you've been, how would you describe your roles in the past? Because I know you've been at the director level and above.
Right. I came up in the dev teams, software QA automation. I started Agile when it first started. I created Agile teams around the world. That's where I got my first experience, just creating teams from scratch with people, not training current teams delivering, changing them from waterfall or whatever they had to Agile, and delivering all in a big project inside a really profitable product. And then from there, I got pulled by a good friend into Best Buy when they're about to die after Circuit City had closed and Good Guys had closed. And I'm like, you sure I want to go to Best Buy? He's like, no, this is a great opportunity for you. And it was, because basically they had bought an acquisition of a company that they want to do all their secondary markets. That means everything goes out the back door of Best Buy, all the returns, all the overstock, all the extra stuff. That's $4 billion worth of stuff going out the back door. And they bought a company with 40 IT people to do it. And they'd already been doing some of it. And so I got to run a remote team. And the reason why it's a little bigger than it seems, there's a lot of directors at Fortune 100. There's a lot of directors. They have a lot of responsibilities, but mine on top of that was, because it was a remote office, 2,200 miles from corporate. I had to manage the office. I had to manage the real estate. I had to manage the network. I had to manage the telephony. So I was a mini CIO, given my budget, given the people I had, given all the things I had a responsibility for. So I didn't really point that out. I think AI pointed that out to me when I was working on my business development stuff. And it's like, you weren't just a director. I'm like, well, what do you mean? You were basically a CIO of this thing. I'm like, well, why? Well, you have to do everything because you're remote. I'm like, oh, I guess I was.
Well, and then there's, on top of that, the core business of the retail stores too.
Right.
We get so deep in a lot of these companies that we forget the core business of the business, because when I worked for a Fortune 500 retail company
Yeah.
in the PMO, and there was so many times I forgot that the company existed outside of the corporate headquarters in
Yeah.
retail stores doing retail business.
Right. And that can happen easily, right? A lot of my work was in the warehouses. We had 4 warehouses across the country to get all the returns, and we'd spend a lot of time there. But luckily, I guess, in a way, we had in the store, well, we had to go to the store too, because that's how they would use our systems to process them out the back. So we'd go to the stores for that. My team also ended up being responsible for the trade-in system. We created the whole new trade-in system that brought like $350 million in sales a year to the company. And I got to go to the stores. It's fun. Go to the stores, talk to the blue shirts. I think you were blue shirt, right?
I was a blue shirt.
And we talked to the blue shirts. And I have a funny story. There's a local store to us, a big store in Costa Mesa. And then all the suits are coming out. The CIO, all the VPs were coming to do a store visit and see how trade-in worked. And I told my boss at corporate, I'm like, hey, you want me to go to the store and talk to them first? Let me go talk and set them up for it, right? He's like, no. I'm like, why? Let me go to the store and set it up. He's like, no, I'm going to tell their boss's boss that we're coming. I'm like, okay, good luck. So, and you know what? You probably already see on your face what happened. We showed up at opening, whatever it was, 9 or 10 in the morning, like a Troy. Basically some really high-powered executives from Best Buy. We all show up, and I'm the lowest. Me and another director are the lowest people there, right? And we walk in, and my boss goes up to set it up, and no one knows we're coming. No idea. And some poor kid, blue shirt, is like, who is in charge of trade-in at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday or whatever it is, right? Is there, and he has no idea who we are, what we do, just people asking questions. And I pulled him aside real quick. I'm like, hey, this is the VP. Don't be afraid. Just show us how it works. And he was a rock star. He showed us how it works. He told us the truth about all the problems. He was incredible.
And
so,
for the audience, I want to clarify, blue shirt is a term that you used for the store employees because we wore blue polo shirts. There was nothing negative or nefarious or anything else about it. That was just the term that was used because the company had a whole bunch of other different types of teams.
Yep.
Like I was on the project team where we would go around and do the resets overnight and all that stuff. But I want to clarify that is not a derogatory term.
Those blue shirts. Yeah, no, it's a nice thing.
And to your point, you forget where you are. You forget the hierarchy of things.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working for the store, my store manager got promoted and he became like a district or regional manager or something and left. And then whenever he would come back, I would watch the new store manager pucker up, follow him around. And I'd just be like, hey, Brad, what's up? And everyone just looked at me like, the people that had been there under him, we all knew who he was.
Right.
But then everybody else was, oh, he's district. He's important. And we're just like, it's just,
and they're just people, right? And again, this skipped probably 8 levels of executiveness, right, of leadership.
Yeah.
And the kid handled it like a champ. I kept trying to hire him away to do a job inside my team, but it unfortunately didn't work out. But yeah. And having that connection was cool because I'd visit stores, I'd go on vacation, and of course, everyone I had a discount, all my family or whoever I want to go to the Best Buy and get cheaper stuff, right? And I'd take my friends, and I think I was in a store in Carmel, and I'd be bored. So I'd go talk to the trade-in people, and they'd be like, wonder who I am. And they're like, and one guy speaks up, or a woman speaks up, and goes, this is a problem here. And I'm like, really? Beep, 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 beep. Call my team. Hey, how come this isn't working? Oh, okay, we'll look at it. And then 30 seconds later, it's fixed.
Yeah. And
we're like, oh, wow.
And they had no idea who you were, you were the one that the one that had the phone to be able to tell someone that, because when you don't always want to be telling people everything to scare them, because and it's the same in the project world. I wanted to transition to this because this is a topic that is near and dear to me. Is as PMs, we present status updates, whatever presentations to executives and stakeholders and sponsors. And I always hear project managers are blamed for failures and then the victories are taken by somebody else. And I've been saying for years, that's because you're not presenting it properly.
Exactly. And
as somebody on the other side of the table, what are some things you've seen PMs do that made you just kind of go, wow, you get it.
I mean, when you got a little bigger, it was different between the mid-market and a Best Buy, right? A big company, is that the PMs have a really set role at a Best Buy, but there's no reason they can't kick it up, right? Present the truth, present the numbers, work with your leader, right? Me or whoever, work with your leader to do a better deck. In fact, I would sit with them and review. What I would do with them is I'd have my decks I have to present up to the suits, right? And I'd be like, in your project's on here, like, hey, you want to sit with me and do this deck with me? And either they're like, no, I gave you my update, which is a miss, right? Or they go, yes. And like, and and it's not like they said, okay, you did my update correctly. Like, oh no, how about this? How about that? When we add this, I forgot about this, right? Because they know that their system be put in front of the VP, the CIO, whatever, and then they want to get in. And that's when I liked it. When the light would click and they see the opportunity I'm putting in front of them, right? You can do it for. I mean, I'm lazy. I don't want to do it. If you have a better one, just do it, and I'll present it for you, right? And I'll give you the credit. And I think that's when I see the light goes on. I think that really helps. And see that they have the second thing I see that's cool when they realize they have the power. I always say the person with the knowledge has the power. Whether it's like a lone QA person or one business person who actually knows what they want, right? When you have the knowledge, you have the power. It's what you do with it, right? A lot of times, as you know, the PM has all the knowledge. They know where all the things are going right and they're going wrong. How do you use that knowledge? Right? Use it to your advantage. Use it to push to help the business person understand what they need and do the right thing. To help the developer understand what the business team actually wants. Right? Be the one forcing, pushing, influencing others to do it because you have the info. Why let it sit? Don't like do task 4 now by Tuesday. You have the info. Use your influence and help make things happen, and people will notice.
Yeah, and to your point about the updates, one of the things I noticed, I used to put together a deck for a company when I was in governance. I used to put together the update deck every week or 2 weeks for the IT review board meeting.
Yeah,
and I would send it out to all the PMs and all their update. We would have the template of what your slide looked like or your slides looked like, but they always looked the same.
And green.
Well,
one yellow.
Well, there might be a yellow or a red, but they were the same yellow and reds week after week after week, which meant everybody just ignored them because that was just part of the project.
Yep.
That was the quirk of the project, or the charm, as we would call it.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
But one of the things I've noticed over time as I've been a PM longer, because this was when I was first starting out, is that, just like you said, the knowledge is power. Making those presentations, just because you've got a preset format doesn't mean you can't put narratives in there. You can't put, hey, we mitigated this risk that could have cost $20 million. Or in your case,
nope, exactly.
Or in your case, talk to a frontline employee who told me about this problem that we had no idea existed. The highlighting those things that goes up higher is the key.
The story's a big thing, right? Telling the story as we're learning now, as playing the LinkedIn influencers, right?
Yeah.
So story matters. But yeah, and even though if you have a yellow, I said, you have a yellow, don't let it sit there. It's like yellow means I need something from you, whoever that you is, usually leadership. I need more resources. I need more time. I need more scope. I need less scope. I need you to decide to tell that team not to do this and to do that, right? And here's the reason why what you get if you don't is what you get if you do. It's like, yeah, why have risks if you're not going to do anything about it, right? Yes, there are probably charming things that some projects will be stuck with, right? But then that should be a rescope. It's like, okay, cool. This project, this is so charming that this is now part of the project, and it's not yellow anymore, but everyone needs to know and accept it, right?
Yeah, and to your point, sitting in those presentation rooms, because you're in a unique position because you've been presented to, and then you get to do do that same presentation up.
Right.
So how did you handle that role of kind of being the translator, so to speak, from the PMs to the executives?
I took my own advice. I had the knowledge, use the power, right? Yes, there's probably projects I just want glossed over. Fine, right? But for anything important, it's like, hey, the yellow and red has a reason, and I look at it as not just like, hey, leadership, I need this or I need that, or you need to decide this. I'm like, hey, leadership, you get the opportunity to show how smart you are, and here's the A's in the column A and column B, and if you make that choice, we're going to be more successful, right? And they're like, oh, really? And I'm making fun, but they no one gives them that choice most of the time, so they assume that everything's okay. And everything isn't okay most of the time, as we know, because it's a fight the whole way through. And you don't want to look too bad. There's that, of course, right? But you need, if you start doing it early and let them be involved, because It just is. If you think you can hide some major requirements miss, right, that's going to take time and energy and interrupt the rest, good luck. I mean, if you can, knock yourself out, right? But more importantly, if it's going to have some effect, if you didn't bring it up, especially early in the project, and get them used to it, get them used to thinking that you're smart and you're trying to help, and they're going to help, right? That's the way to get it done. Because if you wait till the very end, like everybody does, they're used to it, but then you're not going to get a chance of doing things different unless you start from the start.
But I've always been told I'm not supposed to lie to executives or to anybody to make them think I'm smart.
And yes, you should, if you're trying too hard to look smart, they'll keep you out. But if you give them choices and the honest opinions, and don't be dumb, don't raise up dumb things that you can solve yourself, right? Don't solve something yourself small and take credit for it in front of them. Don't bother with that. But for all the important things that's going to take real change, bring it up and give them honest truth. And always have a solution. Never bring up a problem without a solution. I mean, that should be obvious, but people just love putting problems out of context and they expect executives to fix it. Like, I don't know. And they really do. I've seen PMs expect executives to fix these problems. Like, you barely understand the problem yourself, PM. How do you expect them to solve it, right? Yes, they get paid 100 times more than you, but that's not the point, right?
Well,
you need to give them.
And I remember back to those IT review board meetings where there was always one VP, I remember him by name, but I won't say it, who every week would go on a tirade about updates. And looking back, I'm thinking, in the moment, it was like, okay, here he goes again. But looking back on it, I'm going, he was the smartest person in the room because he wasn't just taking the snowball answer of,
right,
okay, we'll give him more money. Okay, we'll do this. No, he was actually challenging people on their updates and calling it when he saw things that he knew wasn't right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're not ready, I mean, I have another separate story kind of like that, but you have to, it's every chance you have to present in front, I guess this is career kind of advice. Every chance you have to present your data or something in front of people above you, why not take it as an advantage to look competent, smart, right? Have a solution, even if it's wrong.
And even now, it's that story narrative that's so important that we're talking about. 10 years ago, it was data, data, data. Everybody, that's what everybody wanted. But now it's that story of why things are red, why things are green, why things are yellow, because in the blink of an eye, especially in IT, but anywhere, a project can go from green overall to red overall in the blink of an eye without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And we'll just use, you can use the AI excuse of somebody put something proprietary into the AI model because they thought that was going to make them go faster.
Yeah. AI accelerates. I think as everyone's finding out now, AI accelerates your problems, right? If you don't have your data, you don't have your requirements. Again, like I just said with the PM and the leader, if you don't know what you're building, how's AI supposed to figure it out? Right.
Well, and it's, if you can't give clear explanations of things, I always say that I'm a PM generalist by trade. And that's also by design, that I don't go work on projects I know a ton about because I double as the fresh eyes and the dumbest person in the room because I go in there.
I saw your post on that, I think, and it makes sense, right? Everyone, and again, if you're in the job world, which I was for a little while before I got my senses, is like people want someone who does everything exactly on their tech stack and has 10 years of experience in this minor tech stack. It's like, are you crazy? So you want them to do things exactly the same way your team is that's already doing now, but isn't good enough, so you're not trying to hire someone? It's like, generalists can help. Again, it helps if you have some technical knowledge, of course. And I think it really helps. And I always say too, it's like, everyone on the team should be able to sketch out what's happening on a whiteboard and highlight.
And the other thing is, I was always taught this, and I learned it the hard way through when I used to Olympic weightlift. Coaches can teach. I would watch coaches argue over minutia of minor parts of the movement. And then when you would ask somebody, zoom out and explain to someone what a clean is that has never seen a clean before.
Right.
You would watch their brains break because they're these brilliant coaches, very accomplished coaches, in some cases, even very accomplished lifters. But it doesn't change. The scenario doesn't change based off of going from sports to the tech room or anywhere else. If you can't draw it with crayons for me, do you fully understand what you're talking about?
Crayons, I like it even better. Too bad you weren't a Marine. So,
No. No, I
yeah,
was not.
and that's it, right? And everyone needs that. And that's why I love whiteboards. I mean, a horrible story, but I've sat with directors trying to do something. Let's whiteboard this. Let's do the data flow real quick, and just at a high level, right? Not in any tech. Is like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, A, why would you admit that to me, right? And then B, let's just do it, right? And even though, yes, I'll make fun of the person, but as soon as I start drawing things, people start pointing and going, how about this? How about that? Right? And that's the whole thing. Because yes, you may have a beautiful path idea for your project, but I've seen even the simplest things take dozens and dozens of people to, not dozens, dozens of changes to make right. Right? It's like, oh, once you see it physically on something in front of you, it means something.
Yeah, I wrote about this a while back that McDonald's, I think, was the original Six Sigma designer
Really?
because the McDonald brothers in Southern California, when they built their first restaurant, they were remodeling the kitchen completely, gutting it and redoing it.
Oh, yeah, I saw the Croc movie. They're being pretty with the clipboard and all serious.
Well, that scene actually happened in real life where they went to a tennis court or a basketball court. I can't remember what it was.
Yep.
One was on a ladder. One was watching. They taped it all out, said, make a burger. And then they watched everybody. People bumped into each other. Okay. Ripped all the tape up, redesigned it. And they did that all day until they were putting orders together where people weren't bumping into each other. And the story about how Ray Kroc got involved is Ray Kroc sold milkshake machines.
Right. Yep.
And they called him and said, we need, I think it was like 6 machines.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's an unheard of number. Right. I have to go check this place out because what are they doing? And it worked into their flow. And there were multiple fast food franchises we know now that were paying for a day in the life with the McDonald brothers to learn how their system worked, because they called it the Speedy system, because they spent all that investment workshopping it in real time on the ground with everything taped off.
And it seems logical, right? But it takes effort, right? All that upfront work, like we talked about, and you push this right back into the PM world. Requirements. You can't do too many requirements. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe the space.
Well, you can. Yeah,
but no one does it. 1% is like, think it through, go through the use cases, run through the use cases, then look for the edge cases over and over and over. Because once you start building, it costs you whatever, do 2, 3, whatever the study says, times much to fix it. Right.
Well, and the other thing that I think a lot of teams forget about is talking to the frontline people, because
that's the whole point.
Because when you develop these systems and then you don't talk, if you're working in retail or healthcare is a big one too. If you're not, like, I've seen people say, well, it's only a 2-hour delay. And then they go and become the patient. And they're like, that 2 hours was the longest 2 hours of my life waiting for those test results. Once again, we forget we're in an office looking at these abstract concepts, but they affect real people in the real world outside of our office.
Yeah. And absolutely. It's the people using it. Like, I have a story I wrote up about the whole LinkedIn thing again, about being in the warehouse, right? We have a warehouse, we run it, and we have a guy that goes to we have a BSA that would sit in the warehouse because it was closer to his work, to home, right? Once in a while, so he'd go there instead of come to the office, even though the rules say to come to the office, and be there. And it's like, hey, some guy's like, hey, you put a new release out. This is taking like 1/10 of a second longer every click, and they have to click every second. So 1/10 of a second's a lot. And it's like, oh, what are you talking about? And they come over, look, and he looks at it, and they go through it. They sit there all day. The guy who's paid just to beep, beep, beep things on the line, and his opinion made a change and saved whatever, 10% of efficiency. So that's super important. I have a kind of mean story going the other way. I have a friend here who has a consultancy business, SAP consultancy business, and he says he likes taking people's money, but he tries to help them do things better. And he sees a lot of small, medium companies go, like, he calls it, this is horrible, but he says they let $8 an hour clerks make $80,000 change orders. And then to your point, you have a clerk who, yes, has to do work on the ground, and getting them more efficient is super important, and listen to them, but listen to their opinion on how the overall system should run, right? The big picture maybe isn't the best thing in the world, but then whatever, these small, medium bosses just accept it because they're the one doing the work. And then all of a sudden you have a huge change order that is probably not what you needed. Right. So again,
and it goes back to a conversation I was having actually earlier today with someone is, we talk about, yes, you need to listen to the end users
Yep.
and the frontline staff or whatever projects you're working on. But you also need to zoom back out and realize what they see is only a tenth of what the whole machine is doing.
Right.
And, the frontline person could say, well, why can't we just do it this way? And
Yep.
you look at him and say, well, once that's done, do you realize that this, and this, and this, and this is going to be cascading effects after you've done your easy part to make it 10 times harder for everyone else?
Yep. And I think now we're going to get back to it's a PM podcast. So someone needs to have a vision. Someone needs to have an overall vision. Someone needs to know what's going on. Someone needs to see what's happening. Someone needs to be in the day by day, seeing what's in and keeping everything on track. Ideally, it's a business product manager, right? Who knows, but is there even one, right? On most projects. And so the PM is the default and they need to,
the product manager has their own role. And I think that it's funny if you've been in a PMO or worked in a mature organization, if there's not some level of healthy conflict between your product manager and your project manager,
yeah, of course,
your project is failing.
Yes, it is. And because someone needs to be watching from above. And unfortunately, mostly the project manager gets stuck doing that, right? And just giving updates to the product manager, if there is even a product manager, right? It's usually just a bunch of people that need a bunch of business teams that need their stuff. But yeah, and so it's the vision is what drives it, and it's subjective sometimes, right? There's not, again, because you didn't have perfect requirements, and there's no such thing as perfect requirements, right? And it's like the PM has to fill that space, and it's their judgment ends up jumping in for better or worse. Hopefully better, but it's for better or worse, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had a project where it was a first of its kind. I worked with our product manager who he had the entire portfolio of the company's worth of products. And we'd sit on the calls with the company, with their executive leadership, and he'd be talking about, well, why don't you change this on the roadmap? And me being the good PM I kept my mouth shut. And then afterwards I would call him and say, do you realize what you just asked them to do? And he would look at me and go, yeah, this. I was like, no, what you really asked them to do was this, this, and this,
right?
Because you asked for that. And you just see the eyes glaze over like, oh.
And it sounds so easy in the moment, right? To do things. And it is, hopefully you take a chance. It is, but I mean, everything's benefit risk, ROI, benefit risk, benefit risk. And it's like, what did you do and what's it going to cost? Right? Even the simplest thing.
Yeah. And I mean, it goes back to that narrow view versus the wide view. You
gotta have both. And that's a crazy hard thing for PMs who, as always, almost always get stuck with it.
And that's where I think that the PMO comes in, because that's where you can go talk to your program. If you're a project manager, your program manager, your portfolio manager, or even your PMO lead, because their job is the strategic side.
Yep.
PM's job is the execution side. So if you're managing 4 projects that are all independent revenue streams,
right,
and then you make a suggestion on one of your projects, you might have no idea there's 3 other projects you've just derailed with your one project change.
There's that too. And and especially at a Best Buy, even at a smaller company I was at, it's like at a Best Buy, I had my own, they had the big PMO. I avoided them. I had my own mini PMO, right, that I ran, even though I had the whole team. I had like 5 PMs. And it's like, and what's amazing is when I would talk to them and have them come to me, I was like, hey guys, first we'd have weekly meetings with all the PMs so we can all coordinate projects across the whole portfolio, right? And it's like, I would listen to them and I was like, hey, wait, what's the problem? And like, you don't have to do this. Let me talk. Let me tell you, do this, not that. Right. And it's kind of funny to be able to tell a PM that. It's like A, not B. Don't worry about C, a little bit about D. But once they get a direction for things they don't fully understand because they're not exposed to leaving or just willing to make choices and you help them make it, it's like weights lifted off their shoulders and they can kick butt at the crazy things they have to do. Right.
Yeah. And I think this is a great place to pause to thank the Patreons and tell you about the Patreon, because for $5 a month, every guest that comes on also participates in the postmortem interviews. And this is where I poke and prod the guest a little bit more to give you some good information about their expertise. So me and Dennis are going to be talking a little bit about Well, I don't know. Are we going to be able to have that conversation, Dennis?
Maybe. I think it applies. I'd love to dive into it. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I think we're going to be talking about how why half of his time as a CIO was spent doing dumb stuff, as he put it. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about, I hate using this term, but networking, and I call it relationship building, and just how me and him even met in the first place, because there's a good story behind that.
Yep.
And there's a lot to go on with that. So, those are the kinds of things we're going to be talking about in the postmortem interviews with Dennis.
Hey, good tease. It's like you've done this before.
Once or twice. So I want to transition to some of your stories that you wanted me to prompt you for, because the audience knows, most of these stories I'm hearing for the first time, just like you are. And I want to know why the CFO said you couldn't CapEx a pizza party.
So first of all, right, CapEx was, for whatever reason, this company I went to, CapEx of IT labor was a new thing to them. And that's a whole nother story of how I had to do that and how I got yelled at first, and I did it anyways. And then they needed me, and then I saved them millions of dollars, and they didn't. Point being is I had to help bring the idea and prove and the idea of CapEx to them in general, which is kind of crazy, but I did. But then, but yeah, so I've been working with the finance team closely, right? And help them solve their problems with IT and go back and forth, which is I always do at companies, because I think you be friends with the people who control the money,
Mm-hmm.
And so I would put projects through to get CapEx, right, in a certain format. And my boss had an idea for Wisma. Where is my order? Right? We didn't have the capability to give it to customers to say, let them track the order, right? Because we did the data things weren't set up and too much things. And because the way our data was in our system, we couldn't handle hundreds or thousands of requests an hour, right? We could only handle 100, whatever technical reason. So we're like, hey, let's create it just for customer service. So if a customer really cares, they can come in, and instead of customer service having to click through a slow ERP, unfortunately, to find where the customer's order was, ERP to, I think, another screen to UPS or to USPS or to FedEx, depending how it went out, which was a lot of work, right? Let's create a thing that can draw from the systems and give 100 answers an hour, right? Again, embarrassing, but good. And called it, where's my order? He's all, well, what do you want it to look like? I want it to look like the pizza tracker on Domino's, right? So we called the pizza tracker project, right? And we created, it was relatively simple. We saved like thousands of hours apparently for the customer service team a year. And then so CapEx, we're 25 grand for the project. And then one of the finance directors came in and goes, Dennis, I want to talk to you. Like, what? You can't CapEx a pizza party. I'm like, and I knew where she was going right away. I'm like, don't you think 25 grand seems a little high for a pizza party? That's what I mean. You can't CapEx it. So it's just funny. It's like, and I explained what it was. She's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And you saved the company money. Yeah. And then launch into a whole nother finance thing of how to account for that money saved, the time saved, and the resources, right? In other finance ways they can record that for positivity. So yeah, that was it. But they really thought I was because they had a relationship with me, they thought it could make fun. And they thought I was trying to pull something over their eyes, which is kind of how they always felt about me.
I wonder why.
I said, hey, the whole new idea CapEx. But yeah, and so that was that, right? I ended up getting them. They never claimed the federal R&D tax credit over years. And I was able, with my years of data and also the work I'd done to research the previous projects and recap money from those previous projects, I was able to give them like $1.2 million in cash from the IRS, right? It was like, oh, and I literally found them that they couldn't have found before with the proof and everything. And then they laid me off.
Yeah. And I want to highlight something there. When you were talking about that project,
yep.
you turned a pull system into a pull system, because we take that idea for granted now that I can go look up my order for whatever I buy, wherever I go, and it shows up instantly.
Right.
And that wasn't always the case. You used to have to call in to customer service. They would look it up and go through that process, and think about the opportunity cost of that customer service agent now having an angry person that they need to help, instead of
exactly. It's
figuring out where your order is.
Right. Yeah. We made them faster. And that is the thing, right? Because a lot of the data systems, and this is like, I'll just call it Microsoft D365. there was no way to get inside that data easily and quickly without creating a data lake, which is a whole nother level. They didn't tell you need a data lake when you buy 365 from them, right? And so you need to have a data lake, and we fixed it better in the future so anyone could check. But but yeah, there's a lot of technical issues that are just they didn't think about when they created it, having be able to let customers jump in and pull data out of your ERP easily.
Yeah. And how long ago was that?
This was probably 5 years ago, right?
Oh, wow. So it's fairly recent.
Yeah, no, they were a little behind. Let's say I have other funny stories about their e-com and their website, but yeah, I don't know if I'll get into it right now.
We won't have to say their name.
Yeah,
I'm not fond of using company names.
right.
But so, you've talked about a lot of different things here. And one of the things that I really want to highlight is you were that bridge between the PMO and the executives. So you're the translator. What were some things that the PMs could do to help arm you? So when you went in front of the executives, so they didn't have to make them look good.
Again, we'll bring this back up. What's a story here, right? Let's say they care about this project and it's important. What are some stories that have been happening? Some human things, same as the wonderful LinkedIn influencing things you have to tell. What happened? Who did what? What happened, right? I can disarm the executives not lie, disarm them with a good story about what happened. Like, John found this other issue and it was causing this much delay in the timing. And then this person figured this out and this brings out, and we were able to get rid of that delay. It's like, oh, wow. And then I'm going to call out 3-4 devs, BSA, whoever who fixed it to get their name in front of the executives when I want to get them promoted. Right. So it's like a multi-use kind of situation.
I had to buy pizza for the team to do research on how the process works, right?
Yeah, just only 20 of the 25 grand was for pizza.
We had to buy it every day to make sure that we were on the track, right?
We brought the chef in.
Well, now is the time where we get to the personalized question that I have for every guest. And, give you a minute, and I'll give you some time in a minute to plug your stuff, but your company is Acme Agile Consulting, right?
Yeah.
And your logo is a rocket.
Yeah.
Is that the rocket from the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote Acme Corporation?
Yes, it is. As processed through AI to get rid of copyright. But yeah, it's Acme Agile. I mean, my story of how I got started was, if it's time to tell, it's like,
of course,
I was laid off, at the worst job market ever. I had, some things almost worked out, bunch of interviews, things aren't going the way I want. And I started thinking like, man, I should start a company, right? My wife has her own psychology practice and it's called Acme Psychology, right? And I was trying, and just because she's funny and it doesn't mean anything because it's just more of a placeholder for her, but I'm like, I don't know what to do. Different names, Dennis Consulting, Wong. It's like, I've seen my friend start a big consulting firm and I keep seeing all these names. They're like super boring. I processed hundreds of invoices for consulting firms, all completely unremarkable, right? And which is probably the point, but it's and I thought I wanted, and I use Agile partially because of the process and also just to show that to be agile, and I was up in the air about it. But then an old warm contact called. It's like, hey, I know you have time. I need you and this other guy that I know to do this work for me. You need to have a company. So in a day, I had to create an LLC and do all that other stuff, right? That to create a company. And I'm like, Acme Agile Consulting, right? Roadrunner thing. I love the Roadrunner. I love the reference, doing it. And I did it. My friend who owned the big consulting company said I was crazy. The worst name ever. When I started creating my website with AI told me it was the worst name ever. And I'm like, well, I'm not creating another LLC and going through all that. So, and after I started putting all of my content and all my work and everything I have, all my stories, all my ideas, the AI said, okay, your name doesn't matter anymore. It's the content that matters.
Well, here's one thing to think about that's accidental is it starts at the beginning of the alphabet. So when when someone's looking at a list of vendors, if you're on that list, you're at the beginning.
Hopefully, maybe. Hopefully that I get the Yellow Pages effect, right?
Unlike me, who has the most complicated name humanly possible, but it sounds good.
Exactly. I'll have to. I'd like to think I'll have to overshadow my name with content.
Well, that's just a good practice in general because, names only mean one thing. And
right.
you can have pick your name and the knockoff spelling of it, but it doesn't. But if you can't back up what you're doing, then it serves no purpose.
Exactly. So, and it's funny because in my first client is I talk to their people and they don't call me by name. They call me, oh, the Acme guys. And I'm like, actually, I like the way that sounds.
Once again, when I came up with my name, I did it similar to you. You know, I built the company in about a 24 to 48 hour period of thinking about it for my actual company, not the show.
Right.
But the show was similar thought process, but it was like, It came to me. I ran it by the wife, ran it by a few trusted friends. I'm like, what do you think about this? They're like, that sounds like you. And then I started figuring out, okay, acronyms, none of this is simple. It's all complicated, but you plant your flag and you move forward with it.
Did you bring this up? You watch Landman, the TV show?
No,
there's a thing where he has to create an LLC on the fly to get a $10 million check or $14 million check. He's all TC oil exploration and cattle holdings. And the guy's writing a $14 million check goes, what? He's all, oh, I don't have an LLC yet. I don't want to get one. I don't want to you write down a name that someone already has. Right.
Well, yeah. And that's a great point too, is just thinking about when you're thinking about names, you've got to run it by your state and federal government too.
Yep.
To be able to make sure that it's available and unique enough that it doesn't infringe on someone else's thing.
Yeah. I did my probably half an hour's worth of requisite. I searched and there's a couple Acme consulting, but they're not very active. There's an Acme Agile that doesn't say consulting that has had a dead Instagram page. So if you're out there, I'm sorry. Hopefully you've moved on. But yeah, luckily it wasn't a crowded name market.
Which is kind of surprising, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of Acme stuff, but not a lot of Acme consulting.
Okay. Yeah, because I was listening a while ago to a podcast and it actually went through the history of how Acme became a thing. And there was an actual Acme company way back when.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, anvils and explosives, or?
I don't remember all the details, but I do remember it was a company and they were just kind of a make everything, which is kind of how it became in the.
So I think the actual definition of Acme is the ultimate, right? The highest point, the Acme, something like that.
Yes, that is in
doesn't
Greek,
mean that
isn't
anymore. Right. Yeah. And the original, whatever. Yeah. The unfortunately doesn't mean that anymore, but I'd like to think my name will mean that at some point.
You're shooting high there, buddy.
I'm dreaming, man. I'm dreaming.
All right. Well, I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you, what you got going on, all that good stuff.
You can find me at acmeagileconsulting.com. You can see me there. You want to see more of what I do, look me up on LinkedIn, Dennis Wong at Acme Agile Consulting on LinkedIn. I have an X and stuff, but I'm not really using that yet. I don't feel like CXOs are going to find me on X, but yeah, find me on LinkedIn. If you need help with your IT, or even just to come in and get an advice of where you are, if you have a growing team, legacy team that knows how to get their things done to keep things running, but are having problems scaling and moving up, you just need some advice of what to do, give me a call. I'm happy for small thing, big thing. I have a 90-day plan to help fix one big thing with you, but obviously that's marketing, and I can fix. You have problems with your IT team. You have problems moving up and scaling. You want them to get better. You want them to get trained and not replaced. Give me a call. Happy to help.
And links will be in the show notes. So I want to take a moment, thank the Patreon subscribers, thank the listeners, all that great stuff. Remember that you can like, follow, and subscribe. It's the best deal in town. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps the show and getting the word out and everything. And if you enjoyed this show, keep tuning in. More great guests coming. If you didn't enjoy Dennis, I have other amazing guests in the back catalog to check out too. So, and like I always do, may all your deliverables be on time, your budget's in the black, and your scope not creeping. For Dennis Wong, I'm still Trevor, and I'm still the disgruntled PM. Thanks for listening.